Hi, my name is Cliff Tan. I'm from Singapore. I am an architect and I practice feng shui.
Do we do that? I'm not doing that.
I think it's so far. I'm not used to that. I don't know. Hi, my name is Cliff Tan. I'm from Singapore. I am an architect and I practice feng shui. I went to London 14 years ago to study architecture at the Architectural Association, and I stayed there ever since.
What sparked you to pursue architecture both academically and professionally?
Oh, I've always wanted to be an architect. Well, I've always liked buildings and design since I was young, and people would say, "Oh, you should be an architect," and so that was what I got the idea, and I told myself from a young age, you know how they mold your little youths, and so I decided, okay, I should be an architect, and so you go through the usual Singapore course of study, and I decided after secondary school, I did first 3 months in JC, and I realized that there was an architecture course in Singapore Poly. So I decided, okay, I'll just go straight for it. And I went to SP to study architecture.
I see, interesting.
And yeah, so that was it. Like, you know, once you decide for life.
I see.
I mean, there were the times where you kind of doubt it, like, oh, it's architecture for me. I don't want to stay at till 1 a.m. making cardboard models. But then, like some things feel quite nice about it, so you stay on.
How's your transition from SP in Singapore to AA back in London? Like, how was it?
Oh, it's very difficult, very difficult. Because SP is like a technical school. Yes. So it's very practical, you learn all the technical skills. You're very good in those skills. But in the AA, nobody is good in those skills. And they don't value those skills at all. They value the idea, they value the presentation, they value the concepts, which you don't, I mean, they did train a little bit in SP, but the focus was different, and AA was completely fluid. So that was a little bit of a struggle, and also one of the reasons why I kind of changed so much personally. Like I realized that, there's more to it, but at the same time, I also realized that they are missing a lot as well themselves at the AA. I never actually express feng shui so literally in my practice. I used to work as an architect like everybody else, like normal. I was in London, I was at Heatherwick Studio, I was working, and then I left and I started my own firm doing people's houses. I mean, I would have it at the back of my mind, but I wouldn't explicitly say, oh, because of feng shui I'm doing this and that. I would just like apply it, like common sense. The whole thing, like the whole reason how I came out was that it was social media. It was during COVID, and I was trapped in the hotel for 2 weeks, and I decided to make some content, and I thought architecture was a bit dry, so I decided to do feng shui. And it was at that time when it became viral, my videos, that I realized that, it's something that people are actually interested in. It's not taboo. And so I could talk about it to everybody, including the white people, and they would understand it and appreciate, and so that was how feng shui came out of me. And like, if you think about it, they're quite closely related.
As you mentioned just now, feng shui wasn't also just your only consideration, right? So what are the key other factors that you take in consideration when you begin to design?
So, I mean, feng shui is very important because feng shui relates to how the person feels. And I mean, we tend, as architects, we very often forget that the building is designed for the person to use. We design the building as a thing, as a big gesture to the landscape, to the urban landscape. So feng shui is important to acknowledge the user, and then there is also, of course, the scale and the space, the environment, and also like the empathy to understand your user, like really understand your user, not just like like little 3D figure put inside. No, not just human scale, it's really about how one would feel in the space, how you will feel upon arriving at the building, these kind of things.
Are there any recommendations you can give us, or like general recommendations for our personal room?
You need to be in touch with your environment, especially as architecture students. You're supposed to be good with your environment. You're supposed to know your space. So no better place than to start in your own rooms. You have small rooms. It's very contained. You can kind of feel its energies, feel the chi. So know where the windows are, where the door is, and you can start by finding the best place for your bed, then find the best place for your desk. It's like a microcosm of a big building, right? Your space contains every single function. So once you can understand what is needed to sleep, what is needed to work, you can also design for the bigger picture.
So traditionally, feng shui is typically for the wealthy, and so the topic may seem a little less relevant to most today. So we were wondering if you could explain what it means in today's context and why you also chose it as a design practice in particular.
Well, I mean, feng shui is for the wealthy just as architecture is for the wealthy. Like we are a luxury service. Rich people will book us to design their houses, and not so rich people can't afford an architect to design their houses. So they're both luxuries, and I would say they're very, very similar.
Given that you're based in London, so how has the Western audience been perceiving this like feng shui, this very mysterious practice to them?
You'll be surprised, like most of my followers are a lot of my followers are actually skeptics. Like they are non-believers, so-called. They are against feng shui. They're like, oh, it's a bunch of woohoo nonsense. And it was my channel that made it like understandable, like make sense. And so they realized that feng shui is a lot about psychology. I mean, there's a lot more to feng shui. I just touched on the psychological part of it and the form and the spatial part. There is also the metaphysical and the numerological side of it, which I don't really touch on. But I can always explain how they are relevant if anybody wants to know. But yes, they are very receptive to it. They listen. They're very excited, and I think it's good. It's good. Yeah, they appreciate it.
What are 3 words you use to describe yourself as a student, and then what are 3 words you use to describe yourself after you started practicing?
Oh, I was very obedient, very quiet, very hardworking, very soft-spoken.
And then as an architect?
I'm the total opposite. So I am very loud. I like to break the rules. I like to be seen and be heard. So what I learned is that following the flow is good, but sometimes you miss an opportunity. Especially if you have something important to say. And sometimes the thing that you have to say is not about your own ego, it's something that can help. And it's better to voice it out than to just hide away.
As you mentioned, you also worked in other firms like Aedas, Heatherwick, right? So before, do you have any insights into the working world?
Yeah, so I worked at Aedas, at WOHA, and at Heatherwick Studio, and all of them were very different. So Aedas was a very commercial company. It's really like a job, you work very little design input. Like you go home on time.
Yeah.
And you deliver a big building, you deliver Marina Bay Sands, things like that. So it's very, very corporate. WOHA and Heatherwick, they are kind of similar. They're more design, they're more famous, well-known firms. And then the design is important, the look is important, the whole experience is an added layer to why they charge a premium. So with these firms, you get to try and test a bit more. Heatherwick is kind of the other end of the spectrum because it's almost experimental. In fact, Thomas Heatherwick isn't even an architect himself. You're just in one big experimental studio trying things out and doing crazy things, and half the architectural world do not like you. But what I did learn from Heatherwick Studio is this idea of really standing out and being memorable. Like, it's only special when people can remember. So, like, it was from there that I realized that if it's being good is not good enough. You must be memorable, you must be interesting.
Why do you decide to start your own practice, and how does it feel like to be your own boss?
Everybody's dream, right? To also start your own practice and stuff. But it's the same. It's just like you start with very small projects and then it becomes just like another job. In fact, it's worse because there's no more design. The budget becomes the most important thing because your poor clients can only afford so much, can only afford the minimum.
Yeah.
Like, you'll be happy if they can even afford you. So it becomes like a job, and then you realize that, okay, it's just a choice. It's not any better. I mean, if you do well, of course, that's great. Then you can start to hire people and design your own things, big projects. But until then, it's always a struggle, It's always just like a thing that you do. But don't feel disheartened if you try and it's hard and you only get kitchens to do at the first few years. But yeah, I mean, a business is a business. It's fun, it's challenging for the right type of people.
So are there any advice you would want to give the architectural students here in NUS?
Oh, that kind of advice. Wow. Wow, don't give up, don't give up. Architecture is just like any other job. When you do feel like giving up, don't think that another job is better. They're all like jobs. If it's something that you chose, you had a passion for it, it's good enough. You can always turn your job into something that's fun and enjoyable and fulfilling. When you're working really, really hard, just remind yourself why you did it, because it's fun, it's creative, it's not something that other jobs can't give. Life is not just about making the most money and reaching the top the soonest. It's also about how fulfilled you feel during the process.
So for potential students out there who want to be a TikTok star like you, are there any advice you can give to them? Maybe in terms of content creation or how to gain followers?
You cannot want to be an influencer. That's the problem. You cannot want to do it, because you'll be just disappointed. I mean, most of the influencers there, I would say they are kind of lucky because nobody trains you to be viral.
Yeah.
And also the algorithm picks things based on like what seems to be trendy at the time. So even if your content is really good, if I reposted my stuff now, for example, compared to when I posted during COVID, the response will be very different, because back then it was COVID, everyone was stuck in their homes. So there's so much to look at. I would say the most important thing is to enjoy what you create, because what you create will be something you have to do for the rest of your life. Like really enjoy the content, know what you're doing, and like even if you don't become viral, still enjoy as a hobby, as a side thing. And yeah, you never know, one day you might become viral.
Okay.
Hey guys, so
Now you know.
I used to want to come to NUS.
What changed? Yeah, what changed?
Then I got accepted into another school. At the AA.
Better school.